You ever wonder why your mind won't shut up, replaying a conversation from last week, a mistake from last year, or a what-if that hasn't even happened yet? You know it's useless, but you can't stop. It's not random, and it's not just anxiety. There's a deeper and uglier reason you can't stop overthinking. You try to think your way into safety, but what if the thinking is what's keeping you stuck? We don't overthink because we're deep thinkers. We overthink because we're scared. Scared of what might go wrong. Scared of how people might judge us. Scared that if we don't run through every possibility, something will go wrong and we'll only have ourselves to blame. Most people confuse overthinking with intelligence. They'll say, you're just being thorough, or you're just detail-oriented. But the truth is, overthinking doesn't come from clarity. It comes from fear. It's not deep thinking, it's defensive thinking. A desperate attempt to control things that can't be controlled, like the future, other people's reactions, or the way the past played out. And it shows up quietly. You're in the shower, and suddenly you're reliving a conversation from 3 days ago, wishing you had said something different. You're lying in bed, and your brain won't stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios for tomorrow. It feels like you're being productive, but you're not solving. You're spinning. That's what overthinking really is. The mind spinning its wheels in the mud, trying to move forward while getting stuck deeper. Why? Because somewhere along the way, we started believing a lie. That if we just thought enough, we could protect ourselves from pain, from embarrassment, from regret. But as Epictetus, a man who had every reason to want control, once said, "You don't have control over external events, you only have control over your response." This wasn't just philosophy for him, it was survival. He couldn't control where he was born, or how he was treated, or even what happened to his own body. But he found strength, not in trying to control everything, but in letting go of the illusion that he ever could. So ask yourself, what's all this overthinking really costing you? Because it won't stop bad things from happening. It'll just drain the joy from moments that were actually okay. Peace isn't found in control. It's found in the moment you stop needing it. Let that be your starting point. The moment you stop grasping and start listening. But in that quiet, where control ends, something else shows up. Not peace, not yet. It's the voice of the ego, filling the silence with stories. Not to comfort you, but to protect itself. If fear makes us grasp for control, then it's the ego that whispers, "You're not safe unless you know." Because the ego doesn't want truth, it wants comfort. It wants guarantees, clear answers, predictable outcomes. And when it doesn't get them, it panics. So the mind starts spinning stories, not to help you understand reality, but to protect you from it. You check your phone and there's no reply. The ego says, they must be mad at you. You make a small mistake at work. The ego says, you'll be fired. Just watch. You say something a little awkward in a conversation. The ego replays it on loop for 3 days straight. Why? Because "I don't know what will happen" is unbearable to the part of you that equates uncertainty with danger. And that's what overthinking really is. A mental safety net stitched together by what-ifs. You think you're preparing, but really you're bracing for impact, even when there's no crash coming. The Stoics understood this long before we had names like analysis paralysis or catastrophic thinking. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And Epictetus added, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Your stress isn't from the silence. It's from what you think that silence means. It's not the situation that hurts. It's the story your ego tells about it. And the irony? The more you try to solve the future in your head, the more disconnected you become from the present. You end up living in hypotheticals, while your real life quietly slips by. So, ask yourself, is this thought helping me prepare, or just protecting me from the discomfort of not knowing? Because real peace doesn't come from figuring everything out. It comes from learning to sit with the unknown, without trying to control it. And that's where true strength begins. Not in answers, but in your ability to stay grounded when there are none. But here's the catch. You can't stay grounded in the present, when the past still owns your nervous system. Because even when life looks calm on the outside, your body remembers. Like when you're staring at a job application and your chest tightens. Not because the role is wrong, but because part of you still remembers how it felt to be rejected before. You hesitate before expressing how you feel in a relationship, not because your thoughts are unclear, but because last time, when you opened up, someone used it against you. You second-guess good news. You brace yourself when things go well. Not because you're negative, but because deep down you've learned that the other shoe always drops. That's how the past hides in the present. It doesn't show up as memories. It shows up as hesitation, as doubt, as imaginary worst-case scenarios you replay 100 times before bed. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And that's the heart of it. What looks like overthinking is often unresolved emotion trying to protect you. Maybe it's that time you were laughed at for speaking your mind, so now you over-rehearse every conversation. Maybe you grew up never feeling good enough, so now you analyze every compliment like it's a trap. You're not weak for doing this. Your mind is just trying to keep you safe by anticipating hurt before it happens. But the truth? Most of the danger you're preparing for isn't real anymore. It was real, but it isn't here now. The problem is, your nervous system doesn't know the difference, so you start treating opportunities like threats, relationships like risks, peace like a warning sign. And unless you pause to ask, is this fear about now or back then? You'll keep living the past on repeat. Healing isn't about forgetting. It's about reminding yourself over and over that you're not there anymore. Only then can you stop protecting yourself from a version of life that doesn't exist. But even when the past loosens its grip, there's another weight that holds you back. The pressure to fix yourself. Like you walk away from a conversation and your mind instantly begins to rewind. Did I talk too much? Did I make it weird? Did they think I was annoying? You post something on social media, and minutes later you're second-guessing it, hovering over the delete button. You glance in the mirror and change your outfit again. Not because anything is wrong, but because something in you says you are. This isn't just overthinking. It's self-surveillance, the constant monitoring, the editing, the mental audit of every little thing you do. It doesn't sound like fear, but it is. It's fear of not being enough, not sounding smart enough, not looking good enough, not being lovable enough. We disguise it as self-awareness, but awareness sees clearly. This only criticizes. You start trying to become a version of yourself that doesn't even exist, one that never messes up, never says the wrong thing, never feels insecure. And when you can't reach that version, you attack yourself. You think harshness will make you better, but it doesn't. It just makes you smaller. Self-judgment doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you stuck. Because if every decision becomes a reflection of your worth, how do you move forward without fear? Psychologist Kristen Neff said it best. With self-compassion, we give ourselves the same kindness and care we'd give to a good friend. Most people wouldn't talk to a friend the way they talk to themselves. They wouldn't call their friend a failure for feeling overwhelmed, or stupid for making a small mistake. But we do it to ourselves every day, quietly, automatically. That's not discipline. That's shame. And shame isn't a motivator. It's a silencer. Because when you're drowning in judgment, there's no room for change. So what if the goal isn't to fix yourself? What if the goal is to understand yourself, to soften, to listen, to be curious instead of critical? Because growth doesn't happen when you punish who you are. It happens when you create safety for who you're becoming. And the moment you treat yourself like someone worth caring for, that's when everything starts to shift. But even with all that self-awareness, there's a point where reflection turns into resistance, where understanding becomes a hiding place and fear wears the mask of preparation. And in that space, have you ever caught yourself endlessly planning something, but never actually starting it? You might say, I'm just being cautious, or I need more time to think. But deep down, you know it's something else. That something else is fear. We don't overthink because we're slow. We overthink because we're scared of failing, scared of making the wrong choice, scared that if we act and things go wrong, it'll confirm our worst fears about ourselves. So instead, we sit in the comfort of maybe later. We obsess over details. We research every angle. We make pros and cons lists that go on for days, and we call it preparation. But really, it's a distraction. This is what they call analysis paralysis, when thinking becomes your hiding place. You feel like you're doing something, but nothing changes. You're just looping, stuck in your head, running simulations of a life you're not actually living. The truth is, overthinking gives you permission not to act, and that feels safer than the unknown. Because taking action means exposure. It means stepping into a world where things might go wrong, where people might judge you, where you might judge yourself. But here's the twist. Not acting is still a decision, and it has consequences too. They're just slower and quieter. You lose time, you lose confidence, you lose momentum, and eventually you start to lose belief in yourself. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic emperor who ruled during crisis after crisis, understood this better than most. He said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." He didn't say plan it perfectly. He didn't say wait until you feel ready. He said, be. Because Marcus knew that life doesn't reward you for what you intended to do. It rewards you for what you actually did, even if it wasn't perfect. You don't need the perfect blueprint. You need momentum. Because clarity doesn't come before the leap. It comes after you're already in motion. Want confidence? Don't wait to feel brave. Do the thing and let courage catch up. Perfectionism tells you, you have one shot. Don't mess it up. But life tells you, you have many shots, but only if you take them. And here's the part no one tells you. Even failure moves you forward. Because now you know. You've learned. You've grown. And next time you'll act faster, with more wisdom, not more fear. So stop rehearsing, stop doubting, stop talking yourself into waiting for the right moment. That moment is now, because the scariest part of action is the first step. And once you take it, you're no longer stuck in your head, you're living your life. So you took the first step, but what if you still don't feel calm? What if, even after deciding, even after acting, your body still feels wired? That's when you realize the mind may move on, but the body remembers. Have you ever noticed that sometimes no matter how much sense you make in your head, your body still feels tense, wired, restless? That's because overthinking isn't just mental, it's physiological. When you're stuck in survival mode, your brain isn't trying to help you solve problems. It's trying to keep you alive. That tight chest, the shallow breath, the racing heart, the spinning thoughts, they're all part of the same alarm system. Your nervous system stuck in a loop that tells your body, something's wrong, stay alert, stay tense. And here's the thing, most of us walk around in that state for years without even realizing it. Overthinking becomes the mental version of the freeze response. You're not running from the problem. You're not facing it either. You're just frozen, caught between thoughts, scenarios, imagined outcomes, waiting for the perfect moment to feel safe enough to act. But that moment never comes, because your body never got the signal that it's okay to relax. Modern neuroscience confirms this. When your body is dysregulated, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that thinks clearly, goes offline. Your brain isn't wired for logic when it feels like you're under threat. It's wired for survival. So you overthink, not because you're weak, but because your body never stopped bracing for impact. This is where ancient wisdom still holds power. Buddha said the mind is everything. What you think, you become. But what if what you feel in your body is what tells your mind what to think? Try this instead of spiraling through another thought. Pause. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale longer than you inhale. Feel your feet. Feel your hands. Feel the present moment. Because grounding yourself in the body isn't just spiritual advice, it's biology. Lao Tzu said, To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. But a still mind starts with a safe body. So the next time your brain goes into overdrive, don't fight the thoughts. Soothe the system, calm the breath, and remind your body you're safe now. Because peace isn't just about having fewer thoughts. It's about having a body that no longer sees life as a threat. And when your body finally feels safe, your mind will follow. But once your body settles, your mind starts asking new questions. Like, how do I stop spinning like this? And that's where most people get stuck. Not because they think too much, but because they've never learned how to trust the quiet. Here's the hard truth. You can't force your way out of overthinking. You can't logic your way to peace. Because overthinking was never a thinking problem. It was a trust problem. Most people try to stop overthinking by trying to think less. But the real shift happens when you stop needing every answer right now. Instead of asking, how do I stop these thoughts? Try asking, what am I so afraid will happen if I don't have control? That's where the real work begins. Overthinking is often a coping mechanism, a shield we build to avoid uncertainty, discomfort, or emotional pain. But as long as you treat uncertainty as danger, you'll never stop spinning in your head. Rainer Maria Rilke once said, "Be patient with all that is unresolved in your heart." And that's what this is about. Patience, trust, the courage to leave questions open-ended without panicking. The more you try to solve your way into peace, the more exhausted you'll feel. Because peace doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender. Not the weak kind, but the kind that says, I'm no longer at war with what I don't know. So how do we stop overthinking? We start by shifting the goal. From controlling the mind to supporting the body. From finding the right answer to living in alignment with our values, even when the path is unclear. Here are some ways to begin. Journaling. Get your thoughts out of your head and onto paper, not to solve them, but to witness them. Breathwork. The fastest way to tell your body, you're safe now. Values check. Ask yourself, what do I want to stand for today? Then act from that, not from fear. Let go of certainty. Replace what if it goes wrong with what if I handle it no matter how it goes. And finally, show yourself compassion, because you're not broken. You're just learning to live without needing control. You're just learning to trust your path, even if you can't see every step. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." That's the real goal, not a silent mind, but a strong one. One that knows the thoughts will come and still chooses peace anyway. Because peace isn't the absence of thought, it's the presence of trust. Because when you finally stop fighting for control, you don't get silence, you get clarity. Not from forcing your mind to be quiet, but from learning which thoughts are worth listening to. You don't need to fix every thought. You just need to stop believing the ones born from fear. The mind will speak, but strength is choosing what deserves your attention. You don't quiet the noise by force. You quiet it by trust, by returning to your breath, your values, your presence. Not every thought is truth. Some are just echoes, not instructions. So the next time your mind starts to spiral, remind yourself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And if this message stirred something in you, if it made you feel seen in your spiral of thoughts, drop this in the comments. I choose trust over control. Because maybe the most powerful thing you can do is stop fighting your mind and start trusting yourself. If this resonated with you, subscribe and turn on notifications. This space is just getting started. And you're not broken, you're becoming whole, one quiet thought at a time.